Good morning. Welcome to Creative Currency, a new initiative at Writers Bootcamp, which I founded in 1989. I'm Jeff Gordon, if you don't recognize me. We're looking forward to welcoming our old friend and alumnus and a past staff member at Writers Bootcamp, Michael Sable, the Vice President at Monkeyland Audio. The goal of these talks at 30 minutes, limited to 30 minutes roughly, is to look at trends in the industry, how many of our peers and players in the business have been pivoting since the strikes, the wildfires, the very slow, if at all, recovery from COVID, AI, taking us on a new path. We embrace technology, but my recent takeoff on an old advertisement of ours to our alumni emphasized the point that AI for writers is authentic intelligence, and hopefully when our alumni come back and watch these episodes, and this is the sixth one in just a couple of weeks or so, and we've got two more next week, we're reinforcing the tools at Writers Bootcamp and what writers need to do and the distinctions that they need to make. Another anecdote is that our tools, which are very unique and helpful, are the prompts that you need as a professional writer. So speaking of Michael Sable, what a great studio over there.
This is one of
You look
four.
great.
One
Oh,
of four
wow.
places.
Is it considered a bay
You could call it a bay. We call it a mixed stage.
stage? Great. How's your morning?
You know what? I don't know if you got my text. Did you see my text 2 minutes ago saying we're having technical difficulties?
I don't think we are at the moment.
We are on my end. It was on our
Oh,
end.
you are.
Yeah,
Working
yeah.
on
So
a
it's saying we're
tech
having.
issue.
I'm not ready. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
But isn't that what you are great at? Not that you're inherently a tech person. You're more of a social creature, a being on that level, a creative artist. I mean, weren't you Northwestern's mascot?
No. Yes, I was. I was a mascot in college. I did, a lot of theater and stuff in high school prior to that. And I'm not a technical person at all. And I'm a salesperson. My job at this company, where we service filmmakers and people who produce television with post sound, my job is to talk to them about why we should work together and they should work with the talent that we have at Monkeyland and in the facilities that we have at Monkeyland. So I'm not a tech person, and for the most part, I don't do creative stuff. Because I am somebody who has not only taken Writers Bootcamp, but worked with Jeff in the office for 2 years, right? Maybe
That's
a
a
little
long
longer.
time ago.
But still, listen, I'll see movies and go, no, I got to talk to you about some
I know.
script issues. And that's because of my previous creative experiences. But for the longest time, and I've been doing this and working in this world for about 25 years now, I'm really working to facilitate and manage a project, both from a budget standpoint of their post sound or post picture. I've done both. And also negotiate the deal and what it's going to cost to do all of this work.
Michael, first of all, it's always great to connect and check in with each other. So thank you. And this is a fun series because these are short and sweet conversations. They say lately, the clips are the show.
Yeah.
Although we used to feel that the clips would lead people to the long form. The hundreds of interviews I've done to supplement Writers Bootcamp's educational materials. I've done maybe about 500 industry interviews with some Hall of Fame, screenwriters and directors and such, and alumni who have succeeded at a very high level. But those are 75 minutes, 90 minutes, and we're working on creating an archive for our alumni on those. So this is fun. It's also a great chance to catch up with friends in the business And I just want to reiterate how much I appreciated back in the early 90s when you essentially ran the office from 1 to 6, 4 days a week. And I don't think you gave yourself credit, but I did anecdotally, in reflecting on that, realize we were on the phone. Our jobs were about being on the phone constantly. And I'm sure you're still on the phone as much as anybody. And my phone calls are scheduled, whether it's a script conference or speaking with a new writer about the process. We're not on the phone as much. We still need to be on the phone. And if you're not proactively reaching out to people and connecting with people, a business, it's like that classic, an architect is so busy doing their work that they don't promote their, skills, and the work dries up. But that being said, you had fun on the phone because our alumni community, in a certain way, in those exciting first few years, because if you recall, I taught 40 sessions of Writers Boot Camp in 3 years, 40 different rosters of writers in my living room. And
I was one of them, by the way. I was one of them.
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
And that was don't. There's no such a thing as interrupting here.
Okay.
And so that was a burnout pace, there was an excitement because the Great American Screenplay replaced the Great American Novel, and there were spec sales every 10 days. There was something significant going on. But can you reflect on any highlights, just looking back at those couple of years where you were just on the phone with people who were so earnest and enthusiastic, and a lot of people trying to hit the lottery, right? But can you, look back? What's your perspective of that era?
I think my perspective of that time, I wish I had known that before. I'm going to call you in an hour and go, Jeff, I didn't say this, I didn't say this, I wanted to say this.
No, that's fine.
I will tell you, I think a lot of people, like myself, like you, move to, in our case, Los Angeles, to find our place, our niche in film and television and other forms of entertainment. And I think for me, talking to all those folks, I knew, because I didn't do that until after I'd been through the program and
Right.
written a script and rewritten it, because the first version I wrote was so long you wouldn't read it at the time. You're like, okay, I'm not going to read 160 pages. And then, and I cut it down by 30 or something. So I had been through the program. I was so excited about it. Because it was one of the most creative times in my life. And I was continuing to write. I continued to take programs at boot camp.
Right, pro membership then was 20 weeks starting in 1992 called Think Tank.
Yeah, so I was in Think Tank and wrote two more screenplays. So I'm writing and talking to folks. And I was so excited about that was coming across. And, I think many people come to town, whether they want to be an actor or a writer or a director, and don't get jump started, don't even get off the block. And for me, Writers Boot Camp got people off the block and got them
Right.
really, you'll talk to people who've been wanting to write a screenplay for years, and they've never done it. Or I knew, by the way, at the time what I needed. I called everybody in town who was doing this stuff, and I knew the structure of what you created, Jeff. I knew that's what I needed. There was no other way I was going to get to do it. I knew I could do it, but I was a good student in school, and I just needed those deadlines and those assignments, if you will. And so what I think about when I used to talk to people is people who I feel to this day who took the class and take the class just have a shot. There are some people, of course, that are just going to be born brilliant and know it, but most aren't. So, and I remember after taking the class, and as you used to say, Jeff, I don't want this to turn into a mutual admiration society
Right.
now. There, you know, um, but I lost my train of thought.
No, that's
But
fine.
but you know, oh yeah, this is what I was thinking. I remember after taking boot camp and learning about what those elements are of making a movie, a moving, entertaining, profound, captivating movie. I felt I could talk to anybody in town. I had no problem talking to any director or writer after that time. And to this day, I feel the same way
Right.
because I see so many movies, both. I'll read script. I read many scripts, Jeff, by the way, when I'm bidding to do the post-production sound of a movie, which entails, for the most part, two main pieces. Sound editing, which is bringing all of the elements that are going to be heard in a movie together. Everything from the dialogue, of course, to a sound effect, to a spaceship landing, to footsteps. All of those have to be what we call editing. We have sound effects editors who take sounds and build soundscapes of a location, but also a car crash. There's no like sound effect make a car crash. Every car crash in a movie is different. So a car crash could be is made up of multiple sounds, from glass breaking to tires popping to the airbag going off to metal crunching. So there's the sound editing, which is bringing all of these elements in sync with the movie,
Right.
and then that's one sound editing, and then there's mixing, and you come onto, and you really can't see this area that I'm in. It may look compact, but it's large, and it's to simulate a movie theater. So I'm looking at a big screen in front of me. A very, this is this is probably 25 feet by maybe 12 feet or something of a screen, and we come in here for days to then take all of those individual elements and make them sound good together to meet the director's vision.
Right. As a quick segue,
Yeah.
I've always emphasized that the tools at Writers Bootcamp are not only tools for writing, but also for collaboration and creative communication. So I appreciate the confidence that can give somebody. What was your segue to post-production? What were you doing at the time?
So when I moved here, I tried a little bit of everything, looking for where I fit in. Not fit in, that's not the right word. Looking for where I could make a living and what I could be good at. And I remember when I moved here back then, you mentioned the years, people came out, the people that I know, you either came out to be a writer, director, producer, editor. Okay, that was it. So I was going to produce. I didn't know or an actor, yeah. I was going to produce. I knew nothing about producing. And so, all right, that got me here. All right, I'm going to produce movies. I had no clue. That got me here. And I landed at William Morris, as I know you did, in the training program. That was my first full-time job. And without going into details into each of those different, why I left or whatever, and then that wasn't the right fit, so I tried something else. And I got very fortunate. The agent I worked for connected me with directors. So I was on sets all of a sudden. I'm on sets of, at the time, TV movies and a sitcom, and I'm watching that world. And on one of those projects, the executive producer said, I'm starting my own company. I'm leaving the studio where I'm at. I need an assistant to run my office. So I went and did that. So I did a variety of stuff. And then I landed at Writers Boot Camp. And because working on the last movie I was on, I had an idea for a movie. And I'm like, I think writers have the coolest job. I'm looking around, out of all the people I get to see, if you could be anything, that's what it is. Forget producing. I want to be a writer. So I took boot camp, and I wrote for years and was very consistent. But I learned at some point that, okay, that wasn't going to be my calling. And I needed a job. And basically, I had done a lot of sales because my family had a business, because of William Morris. When I worked for the producer, there's sales. He's pitching and developing and optioning projects to sell. And then I'm at Writers Boot Camp, where we were talking, and I, with you and for you, was talking to writers every day. So so I'd always done some kind of sales, and a friend said, "Hey, this big post-production picture company is looking for a junior salesperson," and I got the job, and I've been doing that for the much of almost 25 years, and so that's how I made this transition. And for whatever reason, and this will transition to why am I at places that mostly have worked with independent filmmakers,
Great.
both narrative and documentary. So I worked at a company that did big TV shows, and there was a lot of money in doing big TV shows at the time. Transferring film, we were still transferring film to video. We weren't shooting digitally. So that was telecine, and everybody needed telecine back then, transferring film to video. And we did these big Ally McBeal and all this, and The Practice and NYPD Blue. And so the little movies they would send my way, just give it to Sable. Just give it to Sable. This is a little movie. It's not going to bring us to. So I started working with independent filmmakers, and there was a passion there, and I realized they needed an advocate and somebody to help them during the process and walk them through it, because many filmmakers know how to write, maybe, if they take writer's boot camp. They know how to shoot something, but many at the beginning don't know a lot about post. So that's what I've done. I've worked with filmmakers, both less experienced and now experienced, through the process.
Who's the right client for you? At what level do you define or describe, and at what stage is it maybe too early?
Okay, so I'm sitting on this. You can't see the whole room, but to my right here is a large mixing console. Okay, so but what is similar to my days at boot camp and working with my father in a small jewelry store in Philadelphia is that it's still about relationships. Once I have a relationship with a filmmaker, I want to know very early on. I want to know, even if they haven't been greenlit yet. Because I want to be on top of that and make sure that we're staying in touch. I think I'd love to know what's happening or have a conversation during the budgeting process, because I want to have a sense of the budget. Is this something we can do for the money? I usually I often sign a non-disclosure. I usually like to read the script, because we're not making widgets here. So I want to know about the project. So getting back to your question, I want to know as soon as you're working on the budget. And if we have a relationship, I just want to know you're working on something that might be happening.
Are there any frustrations that you can't book 100% of the projects that are discussed or the scripts that you read? Because you have to manage your time in that, right?
Yeah, there are too many projects out there to contact. And a lot of what I do is cold. I'll reach out to people cold often. I've been lucky to work with companies that have reputations and good reputations, so it's a bit easier. But that's a great question, because the last few years have been very challenging.
Right.
Since the strike of 23, and it started in January, because
right.
because people weren't making anything because they knew the strike was coming. So there were no conversations, very few in January and February up to the strike. Right. And then, of course, it really stopped.
Yeah, and the confluence of so many world issues and events and slow recovery, and then the fires hit last year, to add, more difficulty for people in the business. That said, I noticed that there were 51 feature films produced the first quarter in Los Angeles. 46 of them were under $10 million.
I'm loving that. That is awesome for me, because that, by the way, is in our wheelhouse here at Monkeyland Audio, where I work. Most of the projects that I work on are made for 10 million, or that we work on are made for 10 million and below. So that means sometimes movies made for 500 grand, up to 10 million. And we're pushing to get into some of the Netflix and we've done projects that have been streamed on Netflix, they're making romantic comedies at a bigger range, maybe 10 to 20. Yeah, I want to now be working on those 20 and maybe even $30 million projects. But I just want to get back to one thing, though. One of the frustrations and challenges has been tax incentives that are in place at many other places. So I lost a production recently to
You're
Spain.
saying outside of LA. You're right.
Outside of LA, yeah. Yeah.
Listen, since I moved here in 1985, LA has lost, billions of dollars of production to Canada and, Eastern Europe
and that was happening, by the way, then.
not to mention, Atlanta and other states that had tax incentives.
100%. This wasn't something new. People recently are like, "Oh my God, we're losing all this stuff." No. For 30 years, before I started working at boot camp, I worked in productions for TV movies, and they were starting to go to Canada 30 years ago. So we have some catching up to do. But yes, that has been a big, big challenge. I lost a movie. It went to Bulgaria recently. There's a good chance we lost something recently. When I say lost, we were hoping to get it, or we were bidding and we didn't get it because Ireland has a very aggressive tax incentive right now. So it went to Ireland. What? So. And Atlanta, there was a project I really wanted to do, and they shot in Atlanta and they stayed in Atlanta. Because sometimes producers just follow that money. All right, we get a tax. That's another piece of the frustration, where quality may not be of much import. We just know we can save 30%. We're going there without realizing that the colorist, the person who tweaks and colors that movie, also was the sound mixer. I mean, it's just. Does that make sense? Why that's frustrating?
people making do, and it's not always as obvious as seat of the pants or shoestring. But that being said, a lot of writer, directors, artists in our community, alumni, have been very effective. And there's almost this can be nuanced, but there's a need to be entrepreneurial and often self-promotional in a positive way in terms of a sense of mission. And in some ways, the director's main skill isn't necessarily about directing actors and storytelling and camera, but is often being able to ask other people for money brazenly or maybe smoothly. But also, a filmmaker can go broke going to festivals. And it's like when somebody says, "Oh, the ideal place for my TV series is HBO, or my ideal festival is Sundance." Well, HBO and Sundance don't make everything. There are only certain spots. So, in your view of the success stories right now, the two significant ones, Obsession and Backrooms, how does that indicate a trend or opportunity or a shift? Are they anomalies just based on good ideas and audience experiences? Does that bode well? Does this 46 movies under 10 million, do you think that is illustrating a shift for greater opportunity? Because maybe, and we haven't even gotten into AI stories. The savings on transportation and location and visual effects, etc.
Yes. How's that for
Exactly.
Yes. That's the short answer is yes. I'm thrilled with Obsession and Backrooms. And when I saw Obsession, and it's not necessarily my genre, it scared the pants off of me. I don't need to see it again. Okay.
Right.
But I appreciated so much about it. I'm like, I jumped 5 times. I'm a grown man jumping in a movie.
I can consult on horror, and yet it's not my genre.
Yeah. Listen, it's still in the script. I can read a script or watch it, but 100%. I'm thrilled. I was not happy, Jeff Gordon, JG, when I was looking at the credits of the movie and saw one of our competitors did the movie. I was thrilled by the movie and then leaving out the theater pissed, and really upset. When I would lose somebody to go to one of the guys who were other teaching back there, when I was working for you. Wait, they're going to who? What's his name? But anyway, so it's still this. I was pissed, but I knew when I saw that movie, and I knew from all the success, this is going to be good for the company that I work for. And that is paramount for me right now, because those movies, Backrooms supposedly made for $10 million, Obsession supposedly made for $750,000. Yes, that is in our wheelhouse. Those things for a while weren't being made. Nothing was being made. The last 3 years, it has been a desert. And the fact that what you just mentioned of all those projects now being made, and even 100% better that it's happening in Los Angeles, it is really, I think, a great time. And I talked to, a final point on this, I talked to a lot of creative people in post-production, the people who are actually doing the sound editing and mixing, and on the other side, the colorists and online editors. And they have been under a cloud and scared and on the funk for the last 3 years. And I'm right now on the front lines a bit, seeing that we don't know what yet it's going to look like, but there's sun on the horizon. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, very excited about that.
You're hopeful.
A year ago, it was not hopeful.
More
6
dire.
months ago, almost, it wasn't hopeful.
To wrap up with,
yeah.
Go ahead. To wrap up.
Listen, Jeff, I could talk for 10 more minutes on each of these questions.
And I love catching up and seeing you.
I look good. I think I
look good.
No, I'm kidding.
I
remember.
We're both looking
leave
good.
Me
But
alone.
as Larry David said,
What did he say?
We're not cultivating fashion. This isn't a choice right now. But a couple of things to wrap. One, any advice to a filmmaker or producer, and should they call you, or is there the best way to contact you, an email address, or just to call Monkeyland and ask for Michael Sable? Do you take those calls?
Of course. I mean, yes, because on the other side, I'm going after those people. We had a film festival in town recently. I was there 7 out of 11 days.
Wow.
Monkeyland was a sponsor. We did some sponsoring. But yeah, my job is to be out there and meeting filmmakers who are making interesting, creative stuff, who I'm hoping are going to be doing,
What would you like them to consider prior to the contact, if anything? Because there are pitfalls to what you do, or client potentiality. And is there anything, kind of not a rule of thumb exactly, but some insight or illumination about, here's, as a filmmaker, how to look at in advance some prep? Because I understand when you make a production board, you're looking for locations and props and etc. Well, is it ideal for a filmmaker to make a list of sounds?
It's more ideal, I think, it's not about that vision yet. Believe it or not, it comes down to that script that I'd love to read, and the budget. Or to call me and discuss, hey, the script's not done, not ready, but we've actually started a board and a budget based upon an earlier version. I don't want you to see what I've got yet. This is what we're holding for post-sound. This is what we have in the budget for post-production sound. Is that realistic? What do you think? That's what I'd love folks, if they can, to prep. And I talked to somebody recently, I didn't know this until we got into a deeper conversation after a couple of talks, that they made a feature for $50,000. That's tough for us to do the post-sound on a movie that's been made. But guess what? I know people that I would refer you to. I think I know good people that I'm going to refer you to all across the board. Have you made a movie for 50 grand or 100 grand or 250 and then 500, 750? And many of those we would be appropriate for. And if not, then I'm going to refer you. So I think it comes down to not necessarily a list of sounds, maybe a bit of a vision, but more importantly, hey, this is what the producer hey, Jeff Gordon suggested I call you. This is what they've got in the budget for post. What do you make of this? And I'm most likely I'm going to go, that's not enough. Just because most of the time people don't budget for us. They don't, for whatever reason. And final piece about this, because we've been in tough straits the last few years, not only post-production but production, but everybody's competing and reducing rates. And that's driven stuff down. And so, filmmakers are used to keeping less in for certain post-production services. So I'm going to want to have that conversation with the filmmaker to go, hey, that was fine then, but I'm reading your movie. This is not what we call a walk and talk comedy or drama. You've got a demon in the last 15 pages of your script that you've only made for this much. That is going to be a much bigger job than a romantic comedy, set.
Right, two people talking.
Yes.
And then last thing, any tech, any reading, any suggestions for exposure, any projects apart from what we mentioned that you're recommending to independent filmmakers or producers with a vision, any other suggestions, not only to the new writers? And then after we wrap, I'm going to make a couple of announcements, and we really appreciate you, Michael, and it's just great to talk. Thanks.
Okay, wait, before I forget, because after all, listen, you and I are talking as friends and people who've known each other for a long time, and worked together for a long time. I want to give my email. Can I give my email?
Yeah, absolutely.
So people can call Monkeyland, but you can send me an email too at Sable. Is my name on the screen at the bottom there?
It is.
And that's spelled correctly. Sable at Monkeyland, one word, audio, so all in one word, monkeylandaudio.com. And if you really, for whatever reason, can't reach me, reach out to Jeff, and he'll give you my cell number. And
Happy to do that.
I want to talk to you, by the way. Are you making a movie and you have post-sound needs? Because if you are making a movie or a series or a pilot, I want to talk to you. So I'll probably call you before you reach out to me. All right, so that's that. Wait, your final question was, what was that question?
Just insight about tech or resources that you suggest on the filmmaking or post side.
From the post side, I'm not the best person. I don't have a good answer for that. Listen, there's AI is going to play.
I think your sound just went.
Really? Uh-oh.
I mean, I can hear you. It's just quiet.
All right, hold on. Let's see how I am technically. Is that better?
A little bit.
All right, it's probably not. See, I'm not a technical word. I'm
No,
lost.
we can tweak that.
I'm not the best person to answer that, except the only thing I'll say is AI is coming and is going to play a role in this in some way, in production and in post-production. And I guess let's talk every 3 months or 6 months to see what else I might know. Right now in our world, AI isn't playing a big role yet. But let's talk in 6 months. Can we do this again? I want
Absolutely.
to do this again in 6 months. And by the way, that plane sound, see, this is a problem. Do you hear the plane? I imagine it's on Jeff's side.
It is.
All right, well, we got to shoot this whole thing over again. I can't, because I can't take out, it's hard to take out a plane.
Michael Sable, everybody. Michael, have a great weekend. We'll talk soon. Okay?
All right.
Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
Great.
All right. Bye.
So everyone, thanks for being here.
still
We thank Michael. I think you can just sign out.
Can I? Oh, you want me to, is that what you want me to do?
Yeah, I think you can.
All right, wait a minute. Let's see if this does it.
This was Creative Currency number 6. You're early on.
Number
It's
6?
great.
Not
Yeah.
number 7. All right. All right, okay, that's not
Don't
doing
worry.
it.
All I wanted to say to everybody is thanks to Michael, and watch for a couple more speakers next week. These are relatively short interviews, short and sweet. We historically do about 9 basic trainings a year, the 10-week process. There's one starting the morning of August 1st. That's great for writers in Europe. So everybody take care, and we'll see you soon. Feel free to email me at jg@writersbootcamp.com. And these will live on our YouTube page for a while. They may be replaced with clips later, but for now, you can refer people to our YouTube channel. And you might want to ping me on LinkedIn, and also just with my name, and on Instagram at writers_boot_camp. Thanks everyone, including Brad Miller on staff. We appreciate you. See you soon.